All right, we're now going to get into using value on a toned paper or a sheet of paper that already has value on it. So this is going to be our mid-tone, and then we'll add our darkest darks and our lightest lights, and it's really kind of magical how it comes together. I'm going to be using, for my subject, this piece of ribbon right here, and you can see that the ribbon is a value, right? And it's laying on a lighter value, and the shadows are some of the darker values in there. So I'm going to leave out a lot of my paper is going to be the value of the ribbon. But just another, let's see if I can get you to glimpse over, well, maybe not. Just want to show you some of the tools that I'll be using as well. I've got some stump sticks and some charcoal sticks. I'll be using this white chalk. I think you have a pencil, a white charcoal pencil, but this is what I'm going to be using. These are going to help me to blend. I've got my eraser as well, my kneaded eraser. And so let's go ahead and give this a shot here. Okay, so I'm going to start like I always do, or usually do, by working very lightly with graphite. And my subject is a little bit bigger than my paper, so this isn't going to be one-on-one, one-to-one really. But I'm going to start just very loosely and putting down some pretty light, loose lines, and trying to just kind of study it. I'm looking at basic shapes. I'm looking at basic forms, and just trying to approximate where things kind of are. That is not the greatest, but that's okay. It gives me a place to start, right? So now I can go back in and maybe redefine some things a little more. I've got some strong angles I'm now seeing that are going to help me out. And I've made some, if I use the edge of my pencil like this, I can make some stronger lines. I've got lots of straight edges, but then I also have some curves as well. I'm also looking at my negative shapes. This isn't just about the positives, but it's about the negatives too. And that's how I, usually it's kind of going in and out of these different techniques that we've been talking about, if just to be able to get it so that it's just right. So I'll go back and forth in my mind with it. So now I have some of these major angles. Compositionally, it's not necessarily fitting on the page that great, but we're more about studying the light and the value. So now I'm going to come back and try and get a little bit more succinct with some of these edges and curves. That's maybe not quite as thick there. Here, that almost disappears, and this is a really pretty curve right here that I want to be able to show, and so is this one right there. And sometimes I don't get it just right the first time, so I'm going to go back and restate that line. That's okay at this point. We're just trying to, we're not done yet, right? We're still in the process. Okay, and then this comes down. I'm also going put in some of the strong shadows, just some really loose outlines of some of those strong shadows that I see. I've got multiple light sources coming in here, and so I've got this really interesting kind of blurry one that comes up and around here, and then this kind of sharp one, this little speck of light right there, and this comes up kind of like that, and then I've got one that comes up kind of like that. Okay, so that gives me a place to start. So now I'm going to start with the white, with the chalk, and with the chalk I've got this opportunity to make some pretty broad strokes because of how long this edge is and the side edge is. Because this is a new piece of chalk, I'm just gonna come off camera here, and I'm gonna just kind of scrub down the sides a little bit, just to kind of break it in just a little bit. But now I'm gonna come in, and I actually might, where'd my eraser go? I might tone down, take out some of these pencil lines that I don't want to be quite so apparent later on. Okay. All right. So here we go. And now I've lost that edge that I just distinguished. But okay. So here we go. So now, oh, see, this is the problem that I was trying to avoid. But okay, there we go. Because my subject is on a light background, I'm going to start by putting in a little bit of that light background, just to, again, give me a place to start from, and so I can start to see a distinction in value. And yeah, again, this is giving me, I'm going to try to rub off some of these sharp edges here. Sorry, that's my table hitting against the wall there. I've got kind of a sharp edge there. But see how just even putting this much on there, just a little bit on there is starting to give me a sense of distinguishing some of those lights and those darks. Now you might have a very light valued subject that's on a dark background. You know, these are going to be different depending on, I've got some kind of piece of paper or something under there. So yours might be different depending on where you're starting from and what your subject is. But if you can start very broad, start with the big things, start with big areas, and then you're going to move to more specific kinds of things after that. So I've got my lights, now I've got a mid-tone, and now I'm going to see if I can get in a little bit of a few of those darks. I also am going to distinguish, I really don't want to lose this really light that's right there. And there's kind of a sheen to this right here. And over in here a little bit. I'm going to put that in. And right in here, there's a little bit. Okay. All right, so now let's come in and see this edge is really pretty dark. And I'm going to use the side of my charcoal pencil, again, very barely touching down with that. I've got a bit of dark that comes up in here, and then there's some reflected light under there. This comes around and there's kind of a dark edge that comes around here. And that edge right there is pretty dark. And then I've got another dark shadow that runs across there. I'm defining that edge right there. There's another kind of triangular shape that comes across here. And this wraps around. Like that. And I'm going to use a stump stick to start to blend this just a little bit, so that it's not quite so dark and so harsh. Let's see what that does. So now you can see I'm starting to get, 1, 2, 3 different values. And the stump sticks, you can get some really soft, they can help you get some really soft edges. And that's what light, depending on the light, you can have some really harsh edges, but some really soft ones. And the combination of those can start to help to define the form. Now I'm just using what's on the stump stick to kind of bring that edge out right there. That's much darker in there. But see how we're starting to kind of build things? I'll work on this just a little bit, and then we'll come back and continue on with some more techniques.